The war between humanity and the Zaltharian Empire had lasted 11 long years. 11 years of burning planets, shattered fleets, and empty skies where once there had been thriving colonies. The war had begun with a misunderstanding, at least that was what historians believed. A human exploration vessel had entered Zaltharian territory by accident, and the alien empire had interpreted it as an act of aggression. What followed was not diplomacy. It was destruction. The Zaltharians were unlike any species humanity had encountered before. Their technology was centuries beyond anything humans possessed. Their ships moved like living creatures, gliding through space with silent grace, while their weapons could tear apart entire fleets within minutes. But humans had something the Zaltharians did not fully understand: persistence. Human engineers found ways to counter alien weapons. Human pilots learned the strange movement patterns of Zaltharian ships. And human colonies refused to surrender even when surrounded. Over the years, the war reached a stalemate. Neither side could truly win. And that was when the message arrived. It was transmitted across every known human communication network at exactly the same moment. Military satellites, civilian radios, deep space relays, every system suddenly received the same signal. The message contained a holographic image. A tall alien woman sat upon a throne made of glowing crystalline metal. Her armor shimmered like liquid starlight, and a crown of dark silver rested upon her head. Her eyes were deep violet, ancient and commanding. This was Queen Seraphina, ruler of the Zaltharian Empire. When she spoke, her voice echoed through every human system. "Humans of Earth and its colonies," she said calmly. The room behind her was enormous, a royal chamber with walls of living crystal that pulsed softly with light. "I have watched your species for many years during this conflict. I have studied your strength, your defiance, and your strange resilience." Human military leaders listened in stunned silence. Then the queen continued, "This war has lasted too long." For a moment, hope stirred across the human worlds. Maybe she wanted peace. Maybe the war was finally over. But the queen's next words shattered every expectation. "I have made a decision." She leaned forward slightly. "Bring me a human." Her glowing eyes narrowed. "I will marry him." Across Earth, millions of people stared at their screens in disbelief. And then she finished her declaration. "If my demand is refused," her voice dropped to a cold whisper, "the war will continue until your stars grow silent." The transmission ended. For several seconds, no one anywhere in human space spoke. The emergency meeting at Earth's United Defense Council lasted 12 hours. Military commanders, diplomats, scientists, and politicians argued fiercely about what the Queen's message meant. Some believed it was a trick. Others believed it was a psychological weapon meant to humiliate humanity. But the intelligence officers studying the Zaltharians had a different theory. "Zaltharians value symbolic unions," said Dr. Elena Marquez, humanity's leading expert on alien cultures. She stood before a holographic display showing Zaltharian history. In their society, marriages between rulers often represent political alliances or major cultural shifts. One of the generals frowned. "You're telling us she wants to marry a human to end the war?" Elena nodded slowly. "Yes." The room grew quiet. "That sounds insane," another official said. "Perhaps," Elena replied. "But it may also be genuine." A tired-looking admiral rubbed his forehead. "Even if this is real, we can't just hand over a random human." "That might be exactly what she expects," Elena said. Another general leaned forward. "Then we choose carefully." The council spent hours debating what kind of human would represent their species. A politician? A diplomat? A scientist? But eventually someone made a different suggestion. A soldier. The room turned. A soldier? who has actually fought this war. The council considered it. After all, if this was truly meant to symbolize peace between enemies, perhaps the chosen human should represent the struggle itself. Eventually, one name appeared on the screen: Commander Daniel Reyes. Daniel Reyes had never expected to become the most important human in the galaxy. At that moment, he was sitting in a small maintenance bay on a warship orbiting Mars, drinking terrible coffee and repairing a damaged drone. When the door opened and 3 military officers walked in, Daniel immediately knew something strange was happening. "Commander Reyes?" one of them asked. "That's me. You're needed on Earth." Daniel frowned. "Did I do something wrong?"
No.
The officer hesitated. "You've been selected for a diplomatic mission." 2 days later, Daniel stood in a briefing room beneath the United Defense Council headquarters. The holographic image of Queen Seraphina appeared before him. Daniel stared. "That's the alien queen?" "Yes," said Dr. Marquez. "And she wants to marry me?" "Well," the admiral said carefully, "she requested a human. But we believe someone with your experience would be the best representative." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "You're sending me to marry the ruler of an alien empire, to stop a war?" "Yes." Daniel stared at the ceiling for a long moment. Then he sighed. "Well, that's definitely not how I expected this week to go." 3 weeks later, Daniel's transport ship approached the Zeltharian homeworld. The planet was breathtaking. Huge oceans glowed faintly beneath the light of 2 distant suns. Vast cities of crystal towers rose from the surface, each structure shimmering with colors that shifted like living rainbows. The Zeltharian capital was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. When his shuttle landed, a group of tall alien guards waited outside. They looked similar to Queen Seraphina, elegant, powerful, and intimidating. Daniel stepped out slowly. One of the guards spoke. "Commander Daniel Reyes." Daniel nodded. "That's me. The Queen awaits you." They escorted him through the enormous palace. The architecture felt alive. Walls curved smoothly like flowing water. Light traveled through the crystal floors like glowing rivers beneath his feet. Eventually, they reached the throne chamber. Queen Seraphina sat upon her throne exactly as she had appeared in the broadcast. She studied Daniel carefully as he approached. Finally, she spoke. "So." Her voice was calm but curious. "You are the human they chose." Daniel stood tall. "I guess I am." The queen tilted her head slightly. "You are not afraid." Daniel shrugged. "I've survived 11 years of war. Meeting a queen is the least dangerous thing I've done this month." For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. "You are interesting." Daniel folded his arms. "So I have a question." She raised an eyebrow. "Yes." "Why me?" The queen stood and slowly descended the steps of her throne. She stopped only a few feet away. "Because humans fascinate me." Daniel blinked. "That's it. You fight even when defeat is certain," she continued. "You protect strangers. You sacrifice yourselves for ideals." She looked directly into his eyes. "My empire has conquered hundreds of civilizations." Her voice softened. "But none like yours." Daniel considered that. "So marrying a human ends the war?" "Yes." "And if I refuse?" Her gaze sharpened. "Then the war continues." Daniel sighed quietly. "Well." He scratched the back of his head. "I guess that makes this the strangest first date in history." The queen actually laughed. A soft, musical sound. And for the first time in 11 years, the possibility of peace seemed real. But peace, Daniel soon learned, was never simple. Not everyone in the Zeltharian Empire supported the queen's decision. Within the empire's powerful military council, several commanders believed humans were weak and unworthy of alliance. One of them, General Kale, was especially dangerous. Kale had commanded the fleets that destroyed dozens of human colonies. He believed the war should end only with humanity's complete surrender. And he had no intention of allowing a human to become consort to the queen. As Daniel began learning the strange customs of Zaltharian society, Kale quietly prepared a plan. If the marriage ceremony failed, the war would continue, and humanity would pay the price. The ceremony was scheduled to take place beneath the twin suns of the Zaltharian capital. Thousands gathered in the palace courtyard. Human diplomats watched nervously from a distance. Queen Seraphina stood beside Daniel, wearing ceremonial armor that glowed like molten silver. "Are you ready?" she asked quietly. Daniel looked out at the enormous crowd. "Honestly, yes. Not even a little." She smiled faintly. "That makes two of us." But before the ceremony could begin, alarms suddenly echoed across the palace. Explosions shook the city. Daniel turned in shock. What was that? A guard shouted. "Rebel forces." Ships appeared in the sky, Zaltharian warships loyal to General Kale. Kale himself broadcast a message across the city. "This union is an insult to our empire," he roared. The sky filled with fighter craft. Chaos erupted. Daniel grabbed the queen's arm. "Looks like someone didn't approve of the wedding." Seraphina's eyes burned with fury. "My own general." Daniel looked toward the palace hangar. "You got any ships?" "Of course." "Good." He smiled grimly. "Then let's stop a war the old-fashioned way." The battle lasted hours. Daniel piloted a Zaltharian fighter, while Seraphina commanded loyal forces from the palace. Together, they fought Kale's rebellion. Human and alien ships joined the fight. For the first time since the war began, both species fought on the same side. Eventually, Daniel faced Kale's flagship directly. The massive warship loomed before him. Kale's voice crackled through the comm channel. "You are an insect, human." Daniel grinned. "Yeah, but I'm a stubborn one." With a daring maneuver, Daniel destroyed the flagship's main weapon system. Loyal forces quickly surrounded the remaining rebels. The rebellion collapsed, and the war finally ended. Days later, the ceremony resumed. This time, no one interrupted. As the twin suns set across the Crystal City, Daniel Reyes and Queen Seraphina stood together before both their peoples. The queen spoke. "Today, two enemies become allies." Daniel glanced at her. "And hopefully friends." The crowd cheered. The war was over, and the strangest peace treaty in galactic history had just begun. Far away among the stars, the galaxy watched. Because sometimes, peace does not come through victory. Sometimes, it begins with an impossible demand.